Jardy, are you there? Jardy!
Jesus, Rudy, you're right in my ear, you know.
Sorry, I'm just a little nervous.
Nothing to worry about. We got it.
For it!
Once again, me and my gang had given the cops the slip. I was surprised to see how well it went. The cop didn't even look up.
Too bad the cop wasn't a big-breasted animal woman with a visible panty line.
One more crack like that and I'll start filling this thing with my own bodily fluids.
Jesus, okay, man. Does the new guy really get to treat me like this?
Oh, we'd let a total stranger treat you like that.
Finally, the thing we've been searching for all these weeks. A moderately okay fast food joint.
Domino's!
Listen, Rudy, buddy, I'm sorry, but here in the outskirts of the special zone, we can't exactly expect fine cuisine.
Yeah, what do you expect? A little Caesars up here?
Little Caesar. Okay, anyway, it all began when I was just a dumb 20-something. You see, I wanted to make videos on the internet to entertain and maybe pay the rent, like a lot of people I look up to. And all of us dorks line up to one website. Anyone on YouTube can tell you about how clickbaity it is, how the website just didn't care about you. But I didn't mind. No, I have absolutely no idea why I have no dignity. Along the way of destroying my credibility, I'd met a few guys. Prower, a dumbass furry I met in an argument on Reddit, yes, really. And Rudy, a gentleman from Italy who's often the voice of reason until someone insults his heritage, like Domino's does on a regular basis.
I also like robots.
And I'm new. Please follow me on the following social media.
I'm not putting that on screen. Okay, as I was saying, well, one day I made the fatal mistake to show an evil overlord hailing from Australia a harmless early 2000s family film. A film he has harbored a deep hatred for since the dawn of its inception. Shrek 1, available now on DVD and VHS. The sheer hilarity of Mike Myers' masterful performance made him go berserk, and he sent me and the others into the special zone. Anthony and his lackey, Manny, forced me to make videos. Something I was already doing, only in this purgatory loosely based on a 16-bit video game. And that's why we can't get a decent pizza, alright?
I'm still not going to be happy about it.
Prower, it's for you. Okay guys, play it cool. We can talk our way out of this.
I mean, I could bust her instead.
One of you two please hold him back before we all go to jail for harassment.
On it.
Excuse me, officer, what can we do for you?
Did you fucking guys seriously take my pizza?
I think that's a minute before the first F-bomb.
Are you really just mad about a pizza?
Of course I'm mad about the pizza! I paid for that shit!
Someone actually pays for this garbage?
You know, high-stake antics, a band of thieves, a dangerously attractive police lady. This is somehow reminding me of something. A gateway into my childhood, if you will.
Wait, what's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually not familiar with this at all.
Master nerds are able to see video essay opportunities that manifest themselves through memories of a time when they were actually happy. All Jardy has to do is jump and hit the circle button.
I thought Canadians couldn't jump because they don't believe in gravity.
Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus was the second game developed by Sucker Punch, a studio originally founded by 6 people fed up at Microsoft, and their first game was Rocket Robot on Wheels. What? It's interesting knowing that Sucker Punch, which is now well known as one of the big Sony exclusive studios today, got their start on a Nintendo console, and this was when Nintendo was at their lowest point of being absolute jerks to third parties. Apparently, the only reason they created Rocket for the Nintendo 64 was due to the team believing that they didn't have the skills to compete with the PlayStation third parties.
Welcome to the Nintendo 64! We have games, I swear! Maybe Rare will put something out for us in 12 Tales. I mean months! God, I miss Final Fantasy.
It seems that Sucker Punch was just destined to become a PlayStation studio. As soon as Rocket was released with critical acclaim, not much sales though, one member of the team even calling the consumer reaction tepid. Sure enough, when Sucker Punch made their pitches to various studios, Sony was the one that agreed. According to Daryl Plank, co-founder of Sucker Punch, they were pitched an offer to develop games for what would eventually become the Xbox, but due to lots of companies failing to launch a game console, it led to the team team accepting the Sony deal. The team had decided to make a game about a thief raccoon for 2 reasons. One, they actually grew to like their antagonist from Rocket, an evil raccoon named Jojo. None of you say a word! And second, the idea of a raccoon wearing a mask was funny to them. The cane, which Sly both uses as a platforming tool and weapon, was originally conceived from the super sneaky Man of Mystery traits they tried to give Sly. There was a fear that the game's central character being a thief would be a bad influence on kids, but Sucker Punch got around this by making Sly a master thief. A thief that only steals from other thieves, which just isn't true. There's plenty of cutscenes in this game showing Sly stealing from normal people, and I doubt they could justify all of this. I mean, what's Sly's justification to steal Don Knotts' star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame?
He stole the hearts of millions, Jardy.
As Shifi Keek, who was originally brought on to Sony's 989 Studios, previously doing the international soundtrack for Tomba 2, was asked to pitch for the lead composer of Jak and Daxter, and didn't get it. He was then offered Sly and did really well with the game. I'm not really a music guy, so I can't really look you in the eye and tell you why it's so good, but I can say a lot of it, while being extremely atmospheric, really suits the world and game. Mr. Akik was not kept for the sequels to the game and seemed to struggle getting work, his most well-known post-Sly work being Crash Nitro Kart. And while I'd like to say things got better for him, and it looked like it would, he passed away not too long ago. His work on Sly was great, and I just wish he knows that. This was somehow an afterthought, but voice actors. Don't really know how this one slipped the script, but I can't praise Kevin Miller as Sly Cooper enough.
No, that's only half right. I am a thief from a long line of master thieves, while you're just a frustrated firework artist turned homicidal pyromaniac.
His mic in the original game is soft though. I don't know how to describe it, but Kevin just isn't very audible with his lines sometimes. It is an early PS2 game, and I don't think I should be the one criticizing anyone's volume control. Not that it's really even his fault in the first place.
Alright, Jardy, you're up. Alright, there you go. Jardy, I haven't stolen anything yet. Sly Cooper, the Kevin Miller. Please enjoy this awesome friend.
Yeah, I'm bragging I have that. Wouldn't you? I love Matt Olson as Bentley too.
Hold on, Sly. See those searchlights? One careless step and you'll be subjected to acute combustion.
You done whining? Let's go.
I'm just trying to keep you alive, partner.
Based on many accounts, this guy was the first one cast, and was just some guy working at a record shop when he was cast as Bentley. I know some people get really irked by Bentley's voice, but I'm one for Team Bentley for sure. I'm glad he got such a distinctive voice. I've already mentioned before that in this first game, Murray isn't really a strong character, but that's not because Chris Murphy isn't giving it his all.
Murray, what's going on down there?
Well, I drove to this hot dog stand for a quick snack, and the next thing you know, I'm getting challenged to a race by these gangster dogs!
He was fortunately kept in the sequels, where he really begins to stand out. I have no notes. He's a great voice for Murray, even if this game doesn't really give him a whole heck of a lot to do. And I never knew this, I won't lie, but Kevin Blackton plays Raleigh, Mugshot, the Panda King, and Clockwork.
So, without further ado, let me make amends by exploding to gargantuan size and squashing you like the insignificant bug that you are. I feel transgressed and violated. Let's rock! I see you carry Kane of Notorious Cooper Thief Clan. Have you come here for revenge? To steal back the Thievius Raccoonus? Because I wanted to show the world that without your precious book, the Cooper line was nothing.
Look, I knew this game didn't have a high budget, but geez. That being said, I never would have known. I mean, all of these characters have very distinct voices. This is all really smart casting. As for the one Fiendish 5 member not played by Blackton, we have... oh, good God. Oh, okay. Prasilana Esprolini? One take. Okay, I'm not trying that again. Anyhow, she plays Miss Ruby, and you can tell that she's just having the time of her life. Just a really fun voice for her.
Oh, Sly, I see your mouth moving, but all I hear is blah, blah, blah. Well, if jaws need to flap, then let them flap. See you in the next world, Sly Cooper.
Who could forget Carmelita? Now, her voice changes every game, so I think it's fun to rank our Carmelitas, and I won't lie, my opinions are a little controversial. Roxana Ortega is number 2 out of the 4 actresses that play Carmelita. She does a great job effectively setting up the character's groundwork, and is a great baseline for the character.
I don't get it, Cooper. I've hunted you for years, tried to throw you behind bars, but when you get a chance to leave me in a cage, you set me free. Why?
Does she have a little bit of originality bias since she was the first? Probably, but it's not like that helped Ratchet out any. And if you want the rest of the tier list, I guess you gotta make this video blow up, so I have to do all the Sly Cooper games. Or I guess you could DM me, but do the first thing. And with that, Sly Cooper was originally released on September 23rd, 2002 in North America, and 2003 in Europe and Japan. And while I don't usually have to do this, I'd like to talk a little bit about the Japanese version. I guess banking on how successful Crash had been in Japan, the Japanese branch of Sony decided to make some changes for the region, likely to help it out there.
And nobody likes Europe, so they also got it late.
The biggest additions to the Japanese release of Sly 1 are the new anime opening and ending the game uses instead of the original limited flash animation the US version uses. Although the rest of the cutscenes remain normal, the other big addition was a theme, Blackjack, and honestly, it's hard not to think of Lupin III when hearing it with the visuals.
It took this long for you to bring up Lupin III?
I was trying to avoid it since it seems pretty obvious, but based on the interest of the team and the fact that they very clearly name-dropped Zenigata as being an inspiration for Carmelita, it's pretty clear that the team was a big fan of Japan's famous thief, Castle of Cagliostro specifically, since a debug warp in one of the prototypes we will talk about later is labeled Lupin Towers. I wouldn't know about Lupin until I was an adult, but it's funny the way your interests can be connected sometimes. Oh yeah, apparently in Europe, Cooper is a slur, so over there they called the game Sly Raccoon. Also, every region this game was released in happens to have a different cover art. The US has 2 even. As one of the more interesting things about this game's original PS2 release, the Greatest Hits box has a completely different artwork. My favorite has to be the first one I ever saw though, the original North American PS2 release, with its logo being mysterious and so cool looking, even today. I guess it doesn't do a really good job telling you what the game is about, so that's probably why they changed it, but it does make it fun to collect the different versions though. I had to get my hands on the Japanese version of the game because of it.
And because you are a total dork.
And because I'm a total dork. Now let's move on.
Hey yo, did any of you dorks notice that Carmelita is kinda bad?
What? No. Nobody in the history of the world has ever questioned their sexuality because of Inspector Carmelita Fox.
Okay, how did you not end up as a furry playing this at such an early age?
See, the Space Jam complex. An attractive woman with extremely unrealistic features that just happens to be an anthro doesn't make you a furry. It's not like it was the fur or the tail that turned me on. I just like women.
That's a cop-out.
He's put way too much thought into this.
You'd question reality too if you somehow ended up being surrounded by furries.
Did someone say Carmelita?
What the hell did you do?
They locked me in the fridge!
I thought looking at the packaged meat will remind him of the sanctity of life and our place in the universe.
We'll get back to your issues later. In the meantime, Prower, please don't do anything that can be labeled as a criminal offense here.
What do you mean by meh?
I don't see what the appeal is.
We're looking at the same person, right? Because I don't say this lightly. Hochi mama, she's a looker.
Is your running gag that your standards are comedically low or something?
What the fuck are you talking about?
You're lucky you're cute, you purple bitch.
Now who has the low standards? Yeah, that's still me, actually.
Sly is the next descendant of the Cooper clan, a famous family of raccoons that have been thieves for generations, going all the way back throughout history as legendary master thieves. Effectively, those who specialize in stealing from other thieves. Because as Sly puts it,
After all, there's no honor, no challenge, no fun stealing from ordinary people.
So remember kids, don't steal your dad's wallet unless you're going to buy Sly Cooper and the Thievius Raccoonus for your Sony PlayStation 2 computer entertainment system. Available now being of the year is 2002.
For generations, his family kept their secrets in an ancient book, Thievius Raccoonus. In it, you can learn all of the techniques generations of Coopers developed over centuries of adventures, and Sly, being the next in line, is to inherit the book until his family is attacked. Sly watches his father and mother be wiped out as the 5 unknown murderers tear the place down to find the book, tearing it into pieces and scattering, leaving Sly to be sent to an orphanage with no other family to take him in.
Holy shit! Isn't this a kid's game?
A kid's game that dumps all of this trauma on us at the very beginning. Sly saw his parents get murdered in front of him. See, right there. He watches his dad die right there. At his lowest though, Sly meets his best friends, Bentley the Turtle, who's a genius, and Murray, who Sly himself calls part-time driver and full-time burden. Damn, Sly. Prower's a full-time burden, but I can't just say that.
You just did. You motherfucker!
After getting out of the orphanage Sly and his friends spent their childhood in, Sly has already made a name for himself as a thief, and is now here, on the rooftops of Paris, ready to steal a document a certain Inspector Fox has on him, that will give him and his crew the needed information to stop his father's killers and get back his birthright.
We're going to steal lives, motherfucker!
Dude, Sly doesn't actually kill any of the Fiendish Five.
I thought this was like furry Batman, and stealing was just a cover-up for some good old-fashioned vigilante justice.
A little bit. We beat them senseless, take whatever we want, and leave them for the cops to find. The next game does involve drug smuggling, though.
We're going to Detroit?!
As the titular Sly Raccoon, we initially only have some very basic moves for a platformer of this nature, basically only being able to jump, double jump, climb ladders, and swing our family cane to smash heads or breakable objects. However, Sly's apparently really close to a level up, as he starts to see blue stars. No, he didn't have a little bit too much to drink before daring to break into a police station. Instead, Bentley explains that this is actually a thieving opportunity that Sly can see now that he has some experience as a thief. And this mastered raccoon move is holding circle to shimmy on walls. Not the most groundbreaking technique, but you gotta start somewhere. Really, this is just a context way for a player to know where they can do circle button tricks. But for the most part, it's usually very obvious to where you have to go. The goal is normally just to get to the end, you know, standard platformer affair. But the added incentive to explore is thrown in with the clues. These bottles are the equivalent to the notes in Banjo-Kazooie, but there's only about 20 to 40 of them in the stage. If you collect them all, you can find a page in the Thievius Raccoonus that gives you a new ability or upgrade. These can be hit or miss. Some of them, like the Raccoon Dive or Fast, which speeds up the game, are pretty much useless. While others, like becoming immune to water and bottomless pits, or automatically collecting coins you're nearby, are pretty much worth the job of collecting all the pages. Sometimes the abilities are even just jokes, like this one where you can learn a little bit more about the enemies in this game, like this lady.
She's an offensive racist stereotype.
Yeah, but we wouldn't have known that without reading.
There are, of course, mini-game levels to break up the pace as well. Of the 34-ish levels in the game, 21 of those are normal Sly stages, while the other 13 are various mini-games. They can be hit or miss, with most of them being better than worse, but this is not the type of game where you'll usually do something and never do it again, if that makes sense. While you may never be in a submarine more than once, you will have to hack as Bentley or control a hover blaster that controls the exact same as that sub. We'll delve deeper into those as we go on. Holy shit, guys, I found the Thievius Raccoonus!
Gasp, I thought it was but a myth.
Nope, I got the real deal, and it came with the game.
Oh. You set it up as if you found the actual book.
Well, this is almost as good. It tells you all you need to know about the arts of the Master Thieves, like turning on your console and, well, the double jump.
Yeah, I hear most criminal organizations have issues with setting up their gaming systems.
Can't even tell the difference between component and composite, those poor bastards.
Did the Thievius Raccoonus have a section teaching you how to not be a four-eyed moose-munching dork?
No, but it does have Sir Frothington Wentworth Cooper the 14th and a half's Guide to Pummeling Purple Animals with a big-ass book.
Wait a second, that's real! Look!
Prower, I was messing with you. Holy shit, you're right.
How the fuck did that old bastard know about...
Sir Frothington Wentworth Cooper the 14th and a half was a true prophet beyond our wildest imaginations. We shan't speak ill of his name in this residence, lest we burn the non-believers! Roast rat! Roast rat! Roast rat!
When I think about it, this rooftop here could very well be my own version of Peach's Castle in Super Mario 64. It's very likely that this was one of the very first, if not the first 3D platformer I'd ever picked up. And only writing this video did I realize that. The beauty of this small area at the beginning is that it's almost entirely pointless. We continue by heading up to this little tower to learn all about our context-sensitive circle button tricks, beginning with the simple sneak across edges one, but there's much more to do here. You can kill these rats if you're quick enough, bounce on this mattress, or interact with these, I don't even know what they are. Even as an adult, when I can say this is not my first escapade, there's still some pretty sick stuff that you can do up here. After getting through the world's worst guarded police station in history, we managed to steal Sly's police file, which has information about his father's killers. Realistically, we can't expect to not run into at least one officer, and Inspector Fox is on a... Okay, poor choice of words.
No, perfect choice of words!
Damn, girl, looking good.
She's an officer of the law here.
I can fix her.
You are also an officer.
Not a good one.
After some flirting from Sly fails to impress the cop holding the very, very, very large gun, it might be time to get out of here. The shock pistol she's got pointed at us luckily doesn't have homing properties, and apparently Furry Police Academy doesn't teach anyone to lead their shots. So we leave Carmelita there with thousands of dollars in damages to all the police cars in the lot trying to catch one guy. Hate to be her when her commanding officer pulls into work that morning. With the police report in hand, Bentley makes up plans quickly to go after Raleigh, chief engineer of the Fiendish Five who sinks ships and loots them in his spare time.
Everyone needs a hobby, Blue.
With a stealthy approach, we start to see the formula most of the rest of the game follows from here. We arrive in a new area, in this case, the Isle of Wrath, a fictional area located somewhere really close to Wales. It's a simple, straightforward route, but just getting to the end isn't the best way to play it. To get all of the clues, we have to explore all over the level, including areas that make no sense to travel to without them, like this small ship. It quickly helps it stand out from its PS1 influences, and I loved this as a kid. It's a very fine balance between having so many clues that it rewards exploration, but rarely is it so intrusive that you're spending hours looking for a single clue you missed. Getting the key and leaving through the exit gives us access to the game's first hub world, and this place brings back so many good memories of being a little kid in a basement, Pepsi on a table, and maybe some old Dutch chips, preferably barbecue or ketchup.
Barbecue or huh?
Into the Machine is usually the first I tackle. As a kid, I loved how it escalated and dangerous to deal with, from water to electrical fans to lava and fire and a giant machine to climb and destroy. With High Class Heist, I spent hours looking in the background loot and treasure and even these naughty paintings that Raleigh has all over the stage in the next. And Prower, put that down, we aren't stealing that. This section with the tracking laser is intensive as well. Fire down below is very similar to Into the Machine. I don't have much to add here other than leaving the safe at the beginning of the stage was really annoying. Happy that doesn't really happen anywhere else in the game. A cunning disguise used to be my least favorite stage in the area. Here you have to use a barrel to get past these booby trap mats, as the level so wholesomely puts it.
Those rats got pegged.
Blue, just let it go. It's too easy.
Fine. But what has recently made this level one of my favorites to play now as an adult is learning to get around the need of a barrel. It isn't perfect. You still need to use the barrel to get past the first trap, and it's very tricky to get to the treasure key without losing a horseshoe, but it's really fun to try and leads to a fun and unique challenge, even if just using the barrel would make this a whole lot easier. The gunboat graveyard has to have some of the best atmosphere of any of the stages in the game. It's it's just fun climbing across shipwrecks and even planes to get through this admittedly short stage. But one thing I'll never forget happens to be this little eyeball creature that's floating around in this tube that you just sneak by. When I was a kid, I thought it was a reference to the similar eyeball creature in the opening to Tony Hawk 3. The connection? Both games were on the PS2. I didn't say I was a smart kid. The last level in the area, Treasure in the Depths, is a mini game that taught me the twin stick Smash TV type gameplay, where you move around with the left stick and shoot with the right stick trying to smash these treasure chests before a crab gets to them, as even missing one means failure. I remember liking this a lot as a kid, even though I was really bad at it. Even on your first attempt, it should only take you a couple tries to get it right though. With all of the treasure keys in our possession, we can shoot ourselves out of a cannon and face Raleigh. If he's an engineer, what kind of crazy gadget or machine is he going to use on us here? He then inflates himself. Sly's gonna horny bonk the shit out of him, as soon as he deflates that is. I wouldn't want to touch him when he's like that either. Eventually, we smack him into the water and we retrieve a very useful section of the Thievius Raccoonus, which teaches us our Japanese ancestor Ryoichi Cooper's Ninja Spire jump, which will come into play in the next world.
Oh, who is she?
That's a dude.
Fuck!
Sly very barely avoids being caught by the very late Inspector Fox, who, failing to find us, takes it out on poor Raleigh here. You know, by doing her job and throws him behind bars. And I have to say, I love these newspapers. From Wales to the middle of Utah, we head to Mesa City to take on Mugshot, a bullied youth turned muscle-bound gangster here. We end up going through a rocky start and learning the first of our major new abilities, the previously mentioned Ninja Spire jump, a staple of the franchise going forward. By pressing the circle button in midair, we can now land on narrow objects. We also learn that the normally busy Mesa City has basically been deserted, as Mugshot reveals in an intercom message later that running everyone out of town might have been bad for business.
Ha! Don't expect Mugshot over here to be featured in the Wall Street Journal anytime soon.
The most memorable part to me here is this path early on that can be entirely skipped if you aren't collecting all the clues. Getting to Mugshot's hub world, there's definitely a bigger emphasis on minigame levels. At the dog track is a really bare-bones racing minigame. It's in my opinion the worst of the minigames. And Murray's Big Gamble, where Sly provides cover fire for Murray as he goes for a treasure key. Why doesn't Sly just go after it himself? Boneyard Casino has some very fun set pieces. I like to use mine here. It's pretty much the only time in the entire game I ever use it, and I really do like the ending bit where you're platforming on floating roulette tables. Inside the penthouse, you may think we'd explore some indoor stages, but no, all these take place on top of the buildings. Straight to the top is rather fun. When I was younger, I loved when Mugshot directly complaining about you starts, just sending you threats. It made you feel like this world is real.
I got a voice-over message for the two-bit thief who's making off with all my treasure keys. You're dead, Pally. If I get my hands on you, I'm gonna fit you with your own pair of cement bunny slippers. You hear me? Your lunch mate, join.
Also, these droppable cars. It never gets old. Back Alley Heist is what we would call the oh my god so retro stage now. Believe me, it was a novel concept to do a throwback 2D stage in 2002. And finally, 2 to Tango gives us another Carmelita chase. It's pretty cool of her to give us a breather so we can steal from the safe real quick too. Mugshot's boss was always kinda weird to me. You got this big, massive steroid-cased dog. We can't expect to win with cane strikes, but it's not like it even come to that with those gigantic freaking guns. So what do we possibly do? Well, we flip all these mirrors and it tries Mugshot the reflected light and makes him go and retrieve more guns.
I guess you could say he finally saw the light.
Anyhow, Sly gets the next section of the Thievius Raccoonus back, this time explaining Tennessee Kid Cooper's rail walk and rail slide techniques, and once again evades Carmelita and... Okay guys, let it out.
God, I wish that were me!
2 down, 3 to go, and we head to Haiti to take on Miss Ruby, a voodoo mystic with such powers, not limited to, but including the ability to resurrect the dead. This world is not for the squeamish as shown in the Dread Swamp path. Green swamp water, gigantic flies which happen to be the most annoying basic enemies in the game, and giant Cthulhu-looking abominations. It's great.
What is wrong with you?
As a fan of early 20th century monster movies, the atmosphere of this world really thrills me. It's not my favorite in the game, but it's a highlight. Getting the treasure key here requires some extra steps, as we need to remove the force field by smacking these candles and avoiding a lot of searchlight guards. We quickly make it into the hub world in the swamp's dark center. With 6 more levels, half of those now being minigame levels, it's kinda weird that the later half of the game has us do more and more minigames, at least probably in part due to the team trying to get the game done by a certain deadline. I'm gonna give it to you straight, Miss Ruby has some of the weirdest minigames in the whole game, and Piranha Lake is just a taste. With this vehicle, we're expected to use its flamethrower to light all the tiki torches within a time limit, but we need fuel, so the only way to get more fuel is to run over these piranha. I don't understand it either, man. A Grave Undertaking's central gimmick is its use of these ghost spawners littered throughout the place, constantly spawning ghost rats. Huh, must have moved them in from Alberta, Canada.
What's that supposed to mean?
Oh, it's nothing. You don't want to know. Descent into Danger is another lovely stage. Well, it can be kind of frustrating if you happen to fall in certain spots, as it requires a fair amount of backtracking. But man, oh man, the set pieces here are fantastic. There's an actual waterfall filled with bones and body parts. The lair of the beast has to be the best though. You start in front of this gate straight out of the original King Kong. Yes, they actually say that in the developer commentary. The other minigames are more of a mixed bag. While I really enjoy the on-rails twin-stick shooter game in A Ghostly Voyage, where the ghost generators from A Grave Undertaking return, luckily this time, you're packing heat and you can send them straight back to hell.
No, you know what? Now I want to know. What the fuck is wrong with Alberta?
Anyway, Down Home Cookin' is... Look, I don't even know how to do its absurdity justice. I'm just gonna let Bentley do it.
That ghost over there contacted me on Spectre Wave Radio, and we've cut a deal. He's promised us a key if you can whack 50 chickens. I guess he needs them to make a big pot of gumbo, but he's scared of the bob-toting roosters. Be careful, or they'll blow you to bits. Think you can do it?
Having got a lot, I don't need a lot. Coffee's only a dime. We're living in the sunlight, loving in the moonlight, having a wonderful time.
With all of the keys in tow, we head on to a deadly dance, where instead of a normal boss fight, it's a rhythm game. Miss Ruby here will shoot PlayStation button-shaped attacks, so you just press the right button at the right time to avoid them. Unfortunately, in the PS3 and PS Vita versions, the music is remixed and doesn't exactly follow the same timing, making those versions slightly harder than the original PS2 release. But once it's over for Ruby.
You certainly got some rhythm, Raccoon. But it won't help you none if you're fixing to go after the Panda King. He's tough, with a capital T. If you go poking around his stronghold in China, you're likely to get poked back.
Yeah, well, if he's anything like the rest of you, I think I'll manage.
Dude,
Sly Cooper.
So fucking funny! It make me want to merge without looking!
Now, Miss Ruby's section is definitely more useful to a thief other than the other sections obtained thus far, as it details one of Sly's earliest ancestors, Sly Tutankhamun I, and his ability to go entirely invisible.
Now, I'm no expert in the arts of stealing and thievery, but going invisible sounds like cheating.
We've done all this before, but in case you haven't caught on yet, Sly manages to sneak by Carmelita, who busts Miss Ruby instead, and now we're heading into China to deal with...
Jack Black?
6 years before Kung Fu Panda, thank you very much. The Panda King has a passion for the art of fireworks, which turned a crime after he was rejected by the nobles of China. So now, along with Daddy Raccoon killing, he buries villages in snow for kicks. A perilous ascent has us working up to the Panda King's domain. I have to say, there'll always be a part of me that's in awe with the backgrounds and effects in place here. For such an early PS2 game, it still looks pretty great. That's probably just the effect of nostalgia, but I wanted to say it. Getting to mess around with Sly's invisibility technique here is great too. It doesn't work against every guard, and since we can't move with it initially, it does have its limitations. Luckily, if you've kept up with your page collecting up to this point, the upgrade here will be the ability to slowly walk while invisible, which really helps. The best section is here at the end, where a majority of the clues as well as the treasure key are located, where the invisibility technique really comes in clutch. Also, this part is another highlight a little earlier, where we have to sneak past guards on lookout with small awnings being our only way across. Inside the stronghold, we have our final hub world, and these 6 levels, well, besides one of them, are some of my favorites the entire game has, so let's waste no time here. Flaming Temple of Flame was a constant revisit as a child. I just love the theme of an ancient Chinese temple turned training ground for the Panda King's forces. The art design and set pieces are at their best in this world, and that stays true for all of the main platforming stages here. The Unseen Foe is designed all around our new invisibility technique. Without it, we'd definitely be in trouble here. The level ends with a dive into a firework production plant, very similar to the laser grid back in Paris. I wish there was more of these in this game. Sly avoiding searchlights and lasers is some of my favorite parts of these games. Now we get a little bit back-to-back returning mini-games, starting with a Desperate Race and the King of the Hill, which are exactly like the mini-games we did with Murray back in Sunset Snake Eyes. And we also have another twin-stick shooter level in Rapid Fire Assault, which is identical to a Ghostly Voyage, this time with monkeys armed with nunchucks instead of ghosts. I don't mind 2 of the 3, but even a Desperate Race is a little bit better than the original race stage. The final level here, though, is Duel by the Dragon, and Sly has to be the smoothest character in history.
Freeze, raccoon!
How can I freeze when my heart warms at the very sight of you?
Shut up, ringtail.
See? That's how I managed to talk to a lady.
When we find one, I'll be sure to.
Perfect weather to be shot at. There are a few times in the stage where Carmelita isn't too far away from Sly, and we just see she is just massive in comparison, like...
I am going to explode into 1,000 juicy wolf chunks all over the floors, walls, and ceiling.
Dude, next time just say you're horny.
We also get some real BS padding. This is the last stage with a safe in it, but if you try to open it, well, Bentley spouts off about needing to defeat the owl who made the code, meaning effectively to get the last page, we need to finish the game. It kinda sucks, but I also get it. I think the developers assumed that a player would likely backtrack to earlier stages after beating the game in order to get the safes they were missing, and since there's a cutscene that's set after the end of the game tied to page progression, I guess this is just a measure not to cause issues beating the game and then getting all the pages at the same time. Still kinda sucks though. Anyway, for now, all we can do is head on up and fight the Panda King, who, despite a great back and forth with Sly, isn't a hard fight. You can kinda just head straight over to him and hit him a few times with your cane until he knocks you back. I was able to beat this boss before I was able to beat any of the others, and there's a reason for that. With that, Bentley has figured out that the final mysterious member of the Fiendish Five is located in a volcano in Russia. The Cold Heart of Fate, the 5th and final of the worlds in the game, doesn't follow the same structure as the other 4. Instead, it's just 6 straight levels to the boss. Well, 5.5, we'll get back to that. After collecting the Panda King section of the book detailing Sly's technically minded ancestor, Otto Van Cooper, who, considering this game takes place in 1997, has to be his grandfather or great-grandfather at best, right? Can't be that far off the relative timeline. Sly, or more likely Bentley, comes up with the idea for a turret for the van, which is the only way we're getting through a hazardous path. Filled with traps galore for Sly to shoot down, only for Murray to immediately destroy the turret in a low cave, and they never rebuild it ever. Okay. Burning Rubber might be my least favorite level in the game. It controls exactly like the driving stages with a new battering ram that you use to knock these slugs around. You gotta be pretty prejudiced against these damn slugs to get enough computers to pass. And honestly, they have a habit of spawning right next to fallen computers, which just makes this a pain in the ass.
Goddamn sluggos!
Did you just make up a slur for slugs?
You said to be prejudiced!
A daring rescue has us finally control Sly on foot, and Sly makes a run to go save Carmelita, despite Bentley and even Sly knowing for sure that this is a trap. To get past the trap, Sly has to use all of his abilities to get to this barrel, returning for the first time since a cunning disguise, which is his only defense against this booby trap floor guarding Carmelita. Or you could just not be lame and do this. You're gonna understand why I hate the barrel so much in Sly 2, okay? I loved this stage as a kid, and I would return here over and over to practice Sly's abilities, and the design design work, clearly inspired by science fiction classic Metropolis, is just phenomenal. My only complaint is that it's not longer. Sly is then immediately trapped and gassed by Clockwork, Bentley being right, and Bentley actually takes over. I also have to just quickly mention this line here.
Looks like I'm going to have to do some fast and furious hacking to shut down that gas before Sly's brain is turned to cheese.
Controlling Bentley for the one and only time in this first game is really cool, as we get the first instance of the hacking game that is in every other Sly Cooper game, with a much bigger focus on it in those games. It's a twin-stick shooter, and dude, I love the 90s, early 2000s interpretation of the internet and computer hacking. Battle Network baby here. So of course this appeals to me. After that short and lovely level that only makes me again wish Sly's platforming antics were interrupted a little bit more often for hacking by Bentley throughout the game, Sly and Carmelita escape and decide to team up to defeat the Psycho Owl and his gigantic Death Ray.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Yeah, apparently being a master thief means massive genocide. I don't know.
Hold on. This truce is only temporary. Once we beat Clockwork, I'm coming after you.
Really?
Well, maybe I'll give you a 10-second head start.
Of course, Sly manages to choose a really good time to get Carmelita on his side, as an enemy manages to get Sly's cane away from him, and Carmelita has to cover Sly as he goes to get it back, just like the earlier Murray levels. It's nice to know, though, that Carmelita can actually hit something with her gun. Sinking Peril is really kind of the last real level. The Death Ray is sinking into the volcano, and the only way for Sly to get to Clockwork himself is to get to Carmelita's jetpack stashed at the very top. The ambience and music track here are just phenomenal, as even on my billionth run through this, I still feel pressured and like I really need to be careful with my jumps. Sly gets to the jetpack, and in a strange reunion, Bentley explains how to use it. The best way I can explain this is that it feels a lot like the van turret or even the covering Murray and Sly minigame. The only difference is that the cursor also moves Sly around a degree. Star Fox this ain't, and Clockwork shows up and okay. Let's just quickly talk about Clockwork for a second here. So he's the big bad guy of this game and even a huge threat in the sequel. He's the ultimate enemy of the Cooper line, and why? Jealousy. The Sly Cooper series, minus Sly 4, has some great and well-written bad guys for Sly to go up against. Some very iconic enemies even return, but Clockwork has always been kind of a lame villain for me. It's revealed that Clockwork has kept himself alive for centuries, as he's in all the pictures of the Thievius Raccoonus. So this bird Frankenstein himself throughout the centuries to keep himself alive, and all that time just because he didn't like the Coopers and wanted to be the better master thief. I don't know how to tell you this, but a 15-foot robotic owl isn't exactly gonna be sneaky, and how does the gigantic Death Ray fit in all of this? I think this is rushed significantly, as I don't follow any of this logic. You want to know a great Sly Cooper villain? Dr. M. But we're jumping the gun here. We're basically avoiding Colonel Sanders' worst nightmare here until Carmelita off-screen gives you an opening to hit. And after a few dips in the lava, Sly loses the jetpack and makes it over to his head and smacks it over and over again until it's over. And as much as Clockwork is kinda lacking motivation, the final stealth sequence is dramatic and fun. Sly's core moveset and abilities makes him one of the most satisfying characters to play as in any game for me. And getting this final challenge makes me so nostalgic. But in recovering the part of the book from Clockwork and sharing a moment with Bentley and Murray, Carmelita is ready to arrest Sly, but makes good on her promise and gives Sly his 10-second head start.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I felt bad leaving her stranded on that giant rock, but I knew it wouldn't be long before we'd see each other again.
Blue, if you don't tell me right now what they do to rats in Alberta...
Look, I'm promising you, you don't want to know.
If you don't tell me, I'm gonna knock out all of your teeth one at a time and make you eat them.
Okay, maybe I am attracted to her. Whew, thanks for that. Wait, you put water in there, right?
It was water. Once.
You see, in Canada, the provinces are effectively rat-free because they've always ran extreme prejudice against rats. They're usually killed upon sight, and there's been some pretty nasty propaganda going all the way back to the 1950s.
I'm going to fight this. I am going to avenge my poor Canadian brethren and abolish the dangerous stereotype perpetrated by ignorant country folk entrenched in the bowels of humanity's depravity. Just you wait, Blue.
Alright. Also, just to be sure, that's water, right?
Part of it was water, if that helps.
It kinda does, now that he has no excuse not to shower.
Hello, Sly Cooper. I know you can hear me. I know you can hear me, please. Please spare my life. I know we have some beef and I have some bad blood with me, but please, if you spare my life, I'll give you a sum of $450,000.
Man, it's a good thing she left the room. Sly Cooper is a game that seemingly changed a lot throughout its development. We have all kinds of different art style takes that have Sly as a much smaller, fatter raccoon, all the way to looking like an Ice Age character. Sly really changed a lot himself, and the world around him as well. I'll start with what was one of my original sparks of interest in prototype content. In Sly 3, a bonus video was included to show off early versions of both Sly 2 and Sly 1, and the earliest footage dates back to January of 2000. And it doesn't even remotely resemble the final game. We're extremely lucky in the first place that Sucker Punch showed this off in 2005. I mean, how many game developers will let us see into their game in the state like this? March 2001 is the next point the video shows us, and we also get an early look at the gunboat graveyard with this unused mechanic where the cane can shoot some sort of liquid to see lasers, and it looks extremely tedious. We also see this unknown level where Sly can also use it to freeze enemy crabs, and concept art exists of the cane allowing Sly to more than likely hover, maybe use an idea for a double jump. Another point of interest is this completely abandoned level where we use a submarine to approach Raleigh's lair. According to the commentary in the video, Raleigh's world was once completely underwater, and these fish enemies that Sly also ran into in that other level in Froze, those may be a familiar sight if you've ever played the final game. Another interesting element in the video is seeing all these extremely early takes on a stealthy approach, and Sly in the works of becoming a platforming hero. It apparently took him a while to learn how to do, well, everything. I really don't think he would have been able to evade the police for a long time running like that. Speaking of other ideas, according to Dev Madan, originally the orphanage Sly wound up at was originally run by the same Fetish 5 that killed his father. Kinda glad that was abandoned. It seems way too contrived as a story mechanic. Clockwork's agenda is pretty much already all over the place. Can you really imagine the robot Owlmaster thief running an orphanage?
I guess you could be a master thief by stealing kids?
Yeah, that crime goes a little bit above an E rating, I'm afraid.
As for the other unused concepts, it's also important to notice that the press materials list Venice as one of the 5 worlds Sly would go to. Apparently Mugshot was originally located in Venice, Italy, and that kind of makes sense to a degree. Sly 3 actually has us go to Venice and go after Octavio, a musician turned mob boss, and Mugshot in this getup can definitely pull off the mob boss look. Any work that they did do on Venice in game, it has been lost to time, as this video nor any of the prototypes ever show it off. The newest build in the video, dated November 2001, almost an entire year before release, has an early cutscene with some cheesy bad voice acting from both Bentley, which is apparently still Matt Olson, just a tad more nasally, as well as Sly, who is known here as JT. Apparently they changed the name as there was a cigarette brand in Japan called JT, but it's honestly not a bad nickname. It stands for Jewel Thief, which, really creative guys. Time for prototypes, and sadly none of those early builds have ever surfaced. It's not really surprising though, as it's a miracle we've ever even gotten to see it. Now, Sucker Punch, I don't know if you're listening to this, but those videos are obviously cut down. Is there any way we can at least see the full things? You must still have them, right? Anyhow, Our first prototype comes from a demo disc that was given at E3 2002, and I'm lucky enough to actually own the real thing. It's one of the coolest things that I own, and I'm really happy I got to it before scalpers made it stupid expensive and rare. There are only 3 stages and a half, the Raleigh hub world, and the disc contains no extra data for anything else beyond the inaccessible side of the hub world. A lot of things, including Sly himself, looking completely different here, and the levels in the game have more of a gangster naming scheme, I guess. For instance, a cunning disguise is read-in room.
It's like hearing Bugs Bunny imitate a mob boss.
Also to note is that this exchange must have been recorded 4 times at least, as it doesn't match the take in the Evolution trailer, and a later demo has yet another version that's still different from the final game. Another point of interest is the checkpoint system. Instead of Bentley's holographic markers used in the final game, we have treasure chests with a scrapped weasel-like character named Zeg who hops out of the chest to take a picture of you. Zeg and another character Zig, Zigzag, were both cut from the final game. I kind of assume that they're the reporters writing the newspapers that you see throughout the game. I happen to be conflicted on this. On one hand, it's a cute idea of a news reporter type character taking pictures of you throughout the game, and I assume that if this idea carried on to the final game, there'd be a different object in every world that they'd be hiding in, like the coins. But at the same time, you wouldn't really feel stealthy if someone was catching you in the act 24/7. I'll also end with the general fact that this build just has a different aesthetic to everything. Sly also has a back problem, and the game definitely looks like the second game by the Rocket Robot on Wheels developers. I could spend an hour explaining every graphical difference, but I'd really rather not. The more interesting of the 2 prototypes that are available is the May 2002 build that only leaked to the internet a few years ago thanks to Project Deluge. Like a lot of PS2 builds, it had some pretty nasty protection that took a while to get around completely, and for the longest time, it didn't work on actual hardware. While my solution is far from perfect, effectively reading the game off a USB stick plugged into the PS2, I am the first person to my and most others' knowledge to capture footage of this running off an actual PS2. While the previous prototype was a demo disc given out at E3, it's been speculated that this was the build playable at the event, since it's a little bit further along and contains all of Raleigh's section and most of Mugshots as well as the Paris tutorial. The biggest thing to note here is the debug menu being intact and working in this build, and one other thing we'll get back to. As for the Raleigh levels, the biggest change here is the Gunboat Graveyard, which is drastically different and even shorter than the already small level in the final game. It's interesting how the other 6 levels in Tide of Terror are already almost there. This one level is needing a lot of work though. As for Mugshot's world, things are clearly a lot less finished. The racing level has this fixed camera angle as if this couldn't be any worse. Murray's Big Gamble has placeholder dialogue from Murray that makes him sound like a Looney Tunes character.
I'm going in.
And this awkward third-person camera view that is to play in, and okay. We gotta get something out of the way. At this point in development, Murray was still being figured out, and something Sucker Punch were considering doing was making him, in their words, bi-curious. And so we have a Murray that sounds like this.
Well, my stomach was growling, and it got so loud, I thought maybe something at this hot dog stand might quiet it down. But then, next thing you know, these dogs offered to race me for a key.
Luckily, they realized partway through what a horrible mistake this was and changed him pretty late in development. But what's even worse is Carmelita.
Criminal! You foolish raccoon! I caught you red-handed!
That's Carmelita?
What did they do to her?
In 2 to Tango, she has no dialogue, but the reason I skipped over the Paris tutorial is because, well...
That's Inspector Carmelita Fox. And by the way, you dirty thief, you need to return the Firestone of India to its rightful owners.
That had to be a placeholder.
No, I'm sure it was. She just sounds like she doesn't speak good English and is working for a sex hotline.
Unfortunately, Mugshot does not seem to be in this build. There's plenty more differences. The clues are in different places all over the game, and generally there are more of them everywhere, making it really confusing when capturing footage what clues are where. And even the abilities are different, like being able to have 3 or even 4 horseshoes that glow blue and black respectively, something taken out for obvious balancing reasons. Having a total of 4 hits before death would make this game way too easy to just brute force a game like this. There's way more texture and graphical differences too, but I think I covered the majority of the really important changes. Now, I didn't plan on including this originally, but I did get my hands on the Jam Pack Winter 2002 demo disc containing a later demo of the game. And while it's extremely similar to the previous two builds, there's one significant thing that I want to highlight here. This late in development, the plan was still set in stone to have Sly face off with the Panda King first, which if you think about it, makes a lot of sense. The team designed that world last, as the Panda King was a notoriously easy boss, and the world is balanced with a ton of minigames that you'll eventually repeat, as well as just being, in my opinion, the greatest one graphically. These plans were changed because testers found the levels way too hard and were dying left and right, a common side effect of developers getting too good at their game and not balancing accordingly. Honestly, I'm pretty happy with this, since the Master Thief ability Sly was going to get from the Panda King was climbing ladders.
No problem. Here's where we break out that new climb move we got from the Panda King section of the Thievius Raccoonus.
Wow, if that's all it takes, I'll be a Master Thief in no time.
The Master Thief ability, basic upper body strength.
On second thought, I think I'll just stick to being a mediocre thief.
One big change made because of the switch was that in the Unseen Foe, originally the barrel was to return. Well, not the specific same barrel, the mechanic, you know what I mean. This was changed to be built around Sly's new invisibility technique, and speaking of shuffled around techniques, people way smarter than me have made the theory that Ryoichi Cooper's section of the book may have been planned for beating the Panda King and Otto von Cooper for Raleigh. This goes against the whole climbing ladders thing, but I guess he could have been given two abilities, or something else was shuffled around, who knows. I'm sorry, I can't get over that. Can you imagine the game having a cutscene going over that, showing the legendary Billy Bob Cooper and the time he stole from the local Dairy Queen with a fucking ladder he got from Home Depot? As for the final release, there isn't a significant amount of things to really talk about. Like, yeah, the game has some anti-piracy routines that break the game if it's 2002 and the game can tell you're sailing the 7 seas, and there's some misplaced objects out of bounds at various stages, but the real meat and potatoes comes with various unused recordings, most of which include Bentley explaining power-ups that didn't make it into the final game. There was once a bottle collection technique.
Excellent! A special clue collection technique developed by Daryl de la Coupe. From now on, you'll automatically collect any clues you come near, which is not.
This probably breaks the game when you think about it, because if you missed a clue, but you just automatically got it anyways, it's kind of lame, you know? The other two are way more interesting. Both of them list some kind of teleport move.
Sly, it's another page from the Thievius Raccoonus! Fantastic! You've uncovered Caroline Cooper's short-range teleport power. Press the triangle button to set a Tele-Raccoon point. Then hit the triangle button again to return to it. Looks like you need to have your feet on the ground to use this power. Fantastic! It's Hokio Koopa's Bizarre Spatial Relocator! This move allows you to teleport between a level's checkpoints. Press the triangle button to return to your last checkpoint, and keep teleporting near checkpoints to move forward and backward through their order. You can move throughout a level in no time with this skill. It's incredibly useful for hunting down those few missing.
This sounds like an easy way to glitch the game out, and I assume that the second one was a way to rebalance it, since if you could put a teleport point anywhere, I can only imagine how many programming headaches that would have caused. I assume the second one was taken out just because of all the difficulties making it work. There's also some recordings that were left in that were scrapped but used in previous prototypes. But let's quickly talk about the Master Thief sprints. In the game, once you get a safe in the stage, you can return to complete a time trial. Those can be brutal, but doing so unlocks a developer commentary. Pretty cool stuff for a game from 2002, but it turns out the game actually has commentaries for the stages that don't have saves, like the mini games and even the final world. There's no obvious reason as to why they were cut in the final game, but they're all on the internet if you want to listen. I guess maybe they just forgot to have a way to unlock them. The last thing I want to talk about is cheat codes. Yeah, remember those? Well, it took almost 20 years to discover these, and calling them cheat codes is kind of wrong, since these are actually leftover debug codes that were left in the game by accident. I'll post all of them here, but they all are triggered by typing in down L2 R2, down L2 R2, X left circle, and then the special input. It's kind of the basic things: unlock all levels, all moves, all clue bottles in the stage, infinite lucky charms, slightly lower gravity for some reason. The only really weird one is called Chiquito. For some reason, this only works if you're in a perilous ascent, have 99 coins, a completed save file, and 0 extra lives. Entering square 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 will then trigger the message, the password is Chiquito. The word is actually even encrypted in the game memory, and the game decrypts it for this. According to sources, this was some sort of in-joke left in by mistake, but I kind of wanted to comment on it since it's oddly super specific. I've been working on this video for just about 3 years, just because I love this game. And that's kind of because, in some way, I needed to bring justice to this. I know that's corny, like hardy har har, justice to Thief Raccoon game, but it's not like I can tell you Sly Cooper made its developer Sucker Punch big bags of money. It didn't. That's not to say the game was a flop. In fact, it's been said that it actually outdid expectations. But when you compare it to other Sony IPs, even just the other 2 platform trilogies of the day, Jak and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank, Sly has always been third. I've heard it over and over again. Oh, the game looked pretty neat, but I never did play it. Well, play it! That's kind of why the franchise is where it is now. I have my issues with Sly 4, but now we're so separated from that game's release that we actually waited longer now than we were from Sly 3 to Sly 4. In a way, me spending these 3 years trying to put this all together for you all was me standing up for a friend I want to see excel. Things are starting to look up though. In the ending part of making this big ass video, they announced that Sly 1 will be coming to the latest PlayStation consoles, and the rumors going around that Sly 2 will follow shortly after. That's great, and I do hope this will be a push to bring some brand identity back to Sly Cooper. Because you know what? These games are really good. They aren't revolutionary, but if you talk to any of us fans, you'll see 2 things. Horny degenerates, no fan base is perfect, and then the rest of us. People that grew up with a game that shaped the people that we became, but saw it largely get ignored since there were 2 bigger, more critically acclaimed trilogies, and also that it's not a GameCube game. I hope that if you have the means, you give it a chance. And if you're a fan of the games already, be it a new fan who's played the game thanks to the new re-release, or someone who's been on life support for 11 years waiting for any Sly Cooper news to the point that a poster, a plushie, and a PNG file are enough to make us scream and shout happily. Well, I hope that you found that, corny as it is, I brought the game justice.
Well, while you and your band of cackling cohorts, crackling, your band of stupid babies were spewing off about some old-ass game, I was bringing justice for an actual serious cause.
I'm no stupid baby!
What? Did they take the pretzel crust pizza off the menu again? I'll be quiet.
No, I think she meant the senseless slaughter of her kind or whatever. How'd that whole thing turn out anyway?
Well, let's just say, after they see my biting, raw, unapologetic social commentary in the form of an easily digestible and reproducible political cartoon, it won't be so easy to ignore the cries of rat kind.
Whoa! When you said raw, I didn't think you actually meant it.
I don't see how being naked is supposed to help your cause, but I don't see how it doesn't help either.
Are you sure this is gonna get the right kind of attention? You never know what kind of weirdos fawn over this kind of thing.
Hello, nurse.
See what I mean?
Sorry to pop in unannounced. I couldn't help but notice you have a smoking round and vein aboard your ship, and I'd love to join this little group.
This isn't a book club. You just stepped onto a prison ship.
Do you have a cool space car as well? Maybe we can all finally escape.
No. The power of her attractiveness was able to propel me through the cosmos with the assistance of my awesome lion powers.
You're kidding.
Do these muscles look like they're kidding?
Well, it's been fun, guys. I'm gonna go flush myself down the toilet now.
Same.
Well, now that there are less intrusions, let's say you and I get to know each other better, Mousy. What the? Ugh! Oh God, what is that?
It's from my body.
And I'm gonna rip something out of your body if you call me a mouse again. Now, seeing as I am an officer, until the end of this video, I'll be placing you under Penguinator arrest.
You can't do this to me! I'm the almighty king of the jungle! I am the optimal species!
Optimal species, my juicy delicious ass. You're going in the cage and staying there until our next video.
Oh god, another animal living with me?
Oh, I'm also going to live here.
Why?
Yeah, I sorta lost my job the second I left my post for 2 hours to grab a pizza.
You haven't even been an officer this whole time?
I guess not!
I didn't pack an overnight bag. Blue, do you have a spare razor?
On the next episode of Blugenesi, we take a break from games and go to the drugstore and get some toiletries.